Hey, it's time again for Whatcha Readin. As a comic book professional of world renown, I'm often asked, what are you reading? Chuck, what are you reading? What are you reading? And I share these, my library, my reading list, whatever I'm currently taking a look at. I share this with you in the interest of perhaps you and I both learning something in the process. This week, it's an Italian comic that's in Italian, so couldn't really read it. But then again, I could because it's comics. It's called Horrific Land, and it's a Disney thing, but it's yet another Lewis Trondheim production, working with Alexis Nesme once again to produce a really spectacular graphic novel. Featuring the classic Disney characters. As you can see, it's hugely illustrative. I mean, it's just a wonderful story. And because it's, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy and all the rest of the characters, you really don't need to read English to get the story. It's just classic stuff. I mean, let's just look at these pictures. It's just lovingly presented. There's Peg-Leg Pete once again as the villain. And basically the story involves a haunted amusement park. It's kind of a Scooby-Doo kind of story, but it kind of flips the Scooby-Doo premise on its head at the end. I won't tell you the ending. But basically Mickey, Donald, and Goofy are investigating the fact that there might be real ghosts in this horror-themed amusement park. And they kind of have fun with the whole idea of theme parks and the whole idea of Disney World attractions, things like that. There's a little bit of inside humor. And the gang goes through their paces through these different environments where they're never sure what's animatronic and what's real. Which spooks and ghosts and goblins are the real thing and which ones are frauds. It's kind of a cool setup. And there's different themes, pirates and mummies and all kinds of stuff like that. And even though it's in Italian, there were a number of really laugh-out-loud funny scenes in this. Terrific slapstick. Trondheim really gets what made these old cartoons click. And just does a terrific job altogether. I really hope Fantagraphics has translated a number of these to English. I hope they bring this one to English as well, because even though I didn't get to read it in English, I probably missed out on a lot of funny wordplay and puns and things like that, and probably got lost in a couple of the conversation scenes, exactly what Mickey and Donald and Goofy were discussing. I still like to read it in English, but still, for my money, of all these that I've read, including the ones in English, this is my favorite one. For one thing, it's just simply absolutely gorgeous. It's a great comic book story, and it's well told. I mean, it would have to be for the slapstick gags to work and make me laugh. But it's more done in a children's book, classic children's book style, the art, instead of comic book style. And of course, it's all based on the world created in the Lonesome Ghost, classic Lonesome Ghost cartoon from the 1930s, which featured Mickey, Donald, and Goofy as Ghostbusters. So, and it got me to thinking, what the hell's going on in Toontown these days? What is it? Why do they keep trying to modernize and update Mickey Mouse from the classic imagery? Because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It just goes from the cringeworthy to the ridiculous to the completely and utterly ludicrous idea of taking Mickey away from his classic appearance. And in thinking about this, I realized, well, that's the secret to doing a successful Mickey Mouse story. Why do I like these things that Trondheim is doing so very much? And it's because he sets them in Mickey's past. He sets them during Mickey's classic period of the 1930s. And he never moves beyond that. This is the world of Mickey as we most fondly remember him. Not as whatever it is that the Disney Corporation has tried to morph him into over the years. I mean, even in the 40s, they kept trying to update him by having him wear more normal civilian clothing rather than his little red short shorts. But when you take him away from that imagery, that original classic image, you lose everything that's charming about Mickey. You really do. And also you've taken him out of that world and put him into a world that they believed was closer to the reality of our own, but it's a cartoon world. How can it ever be exactly like our own? How can we ever relate to Mickey's environment? Especially one that's changed from the one that we love so much. This is when I realized that Mickey is a relic. He is a relic. He is of another age. And that's not to say he should be abandoned. It's not to say we shouldn't have any more Mickey Mouse cartoons. But why not, like Lewis Trondheim has done in his graphic novels for European publication, why not continue doing Mickey, Donald, and Goofy stories set in their time period, set in the 30s? Certainly much more charming than trying to modernize them or recast them in classic stories like Christmas Carol or Prince and the Pauper. It just makes sense to me. And why wouldn't Disney lean into that? How much money could you make with a Mickey, Donald, and Goofy adventure fully realized, like Trondheim's work? Take one of his graphic novels, make it into a feature film. I'd line up to see it. And I'm sure kids would too. And you would be reintroducing a new audience to classic Mickey. There's nothing wrong with your character being a relic. I mean, Tarzan's a relic of his era. Sherlock Holmes is a relic of his era. Zorro is a relic of his era. The Jane Austen, we don't want to see any of these things updated. We want to see them as they were. We want to see them, preserved in aspic in the period they were in, so we can enjoy them as they were meant to be enjoyed. And that's my takeaway from the Trondheim thing. I know I'm not, reinventing the wheel. I didn't make any great revelation here. Probably a lot of you have thought this before, but for me, I'm articulating it for myself for the very first time, that these classic characters need to be left where they were. Not left alone and abandoned and no more creativity involved with them, but when creators could take them and present adventures of them in their best milieu, which is when they were at the peak of their popularity. And Mickey Mouse was Mickey Mouse was a phenom in his day, and I think could be again, treated properly, and also given back his personality. Disney took his personality away, just sort of made him an affable doofus. He was a bit sharper back then. He was tougher. He was a fearless hero back in his best cartoons. Unflappable. An embodiment of the American spirit, if you will, entrepreneurial and tough. And I'd like to see that Mickey again. But thanks to Lewis Trondheim and his artists, we are seeing that Mickey again. While I got you, my Conan novel, it's getting really good reviews. A lot of you seem to like it. It's selling briskly. You can go to Arcaven and get it. If you do so, you can follow the link below. If you do so, you can get a free ebook along with the paperback. Or you can just go to Amazon, or you can just go to Barnes & Noble. And hopefully there'll be an audiobook soon. Why don't you make your wishes known on that? I'd love to see an audiobook of this. And that is about it for me, for Whatcha Readin this week. I'll keep reading, you keep reading, and I'll see you down the road.